Hey everyone, welcome back to the newest episode of Wildboy Investigates. I'm Wildboy, and today we're diving into the eerie world of a mysterious, forgotten gem from the 90s, the genre of text-based, choose-your-own-adventure games. Growing up as a kid, in the early PC days when I had to use dial-up at my grandma's house, and say hey grandma, get off the phone, I'm trying to play video games, I'm trying to play Gaia Online, get this girl's number, animate baddie. Back then, there were 3 games that I can remember playing in the earliest days, educational style games, that really stuck with me to this day. OG's gotta give it up for Oregon Trail, right? Dying of dysentery, the ultimate defeat. Uninstall. The second one being Space Cadet Pinball, of course, on the old Windows, it came with the computer, I believe. The amount of times I played that game, unreal. And then the third one was Clue Quest, which came before a lot of these point and click style adventure games. It was just text based. It was super fun. All I can really remember doing in Clue Quest these days is that there was a lot of harvesting of the carrots in this garden, because the setting of the game was a medieval castle, but I don't think you could ever go inside the castle. The castle door was always locked, and so the game was restricted to you tending to the grounds of the castle. And I wish that I could find that game so that I could re-explore the castle. So it's more like a nostalgic journey to the past, and the reason that I want to find this game. Originally, this genre began in print format in the form of choose-your-own-adventure stories published en masse, and covered tales of mystery, fantasy, and even Goosebumps started releasing horror versions. These stories became super popular because readers could make choices that led to different story outcomes. These books were characterized by their branching paths and multiple endings, offering a personalized reading experience with the ability to reread the book over and over to get different endings. The advancement of PC games in the early 90s represented a significant shift in interactive storytelling. Eventually, this transition involved moving from a linear print format to a more dynamic and interactive format, allowing for nearly endless creativity.
Spellbreaker is the third game in a trilogy in which, instead of playing an adventurer, you play a magician, and you advance from being an apprentice to being one of the most powerful magicians in the land.
A game like Spellbreaker is not written directly onto a computer. It starts life as a few ideas jotted on paper.
Initially, it's almost like writing a book. You come up with a plot. This is a civilization founded on magic, and magic has stopped working. And then you start thinking of logic puzzles and things which will advance the plot and at the same time provide intellectual stimulation for the people who are playing it.
You are in a forest. There is quicksand to the west. A path leads to the east. Go east. An iron gate blocks your way. Open gate. It's locked. Well, so much for that.
But what if one of these games was more than just a simple quest? What if it hid something dark and unsettling beneath its innocent facade? Join me as we unravel the twisted story of an elusive 90s classic, where every choice could lead to a new, spine-chilling twist. So, grab a seat, turn off the lights, and prepare to embark on an adventure that blurs the line between reality and nightmare. What I liked about Clue Quest was that it provided multiple choice options for what you might do, similar to how dialogue options work in the Fallout games. You choose what you want to do, and the story progresses down that path. While some may think that it's more limited in what you might be able to do because it restricts your choices to a set number, I remember that this game always had the common sense choices that I would do in real life, so it just avoided the frustration of a game not understanding or recognizing my command in games where you can type what you want to do. For example, if there's a bush of berries, in one of the free text games, you could put pick berries or grab berries or harvest berries. And if the programmer hadn't made the game to account for those responses, you wouldn't be able to accomplish that, right? It would spit out an error message or I don't understand, or can you say that again, or something like that. But in Clue Quest, it wasn't like that. It told you what your options were, kind of like A, B, C, or D. What do you want to do? It eliminated the frustration, for me at least, of like trying to find out what the answer was or what I could do, because it just told me what it was. I remember playing this game as a kid, but I thought it was so unlikely that like it would still be in my grandma's computer room or in my mom's computer room. Like, we've moved 3-4 times, so I'm positive that it's lost to time. And I was just home in California too, so I don't know why I didn't ask my mom if she'd seen anything. She said she would take a look in some of the old boxes that I had from when I was a kid, and if she finds some of my old PC games, you know, maybe she'll send a picture, and maybe it's in there, you know, but I highly doubt it.
My initial search for this game was pretty fruitless. No combination of searching like 90s PC game, educational, for kids, Clue Quest, it seemed to ring any bells, and it kept pointing me to Clue Finders, which, you know, I'm 1,000% sure wasn't the case. But every time I saw something with Clue in it, and it ended up being Clue Finders. So just to be sure, I wanted to actually take a look at Clue Finders, but it is definitely not.
Dr. Pythagoras, Mathra took another animal last night. Everyone is terrified.
Desperate, I reached out to the HP Discord to see if anyone played the game, also posted on Reddit for lost media, and still nothing.
So I heard back from my mom, and she was able to find a box of my old PC games and a bunch of other stuff in a box in her garage. And so she pulled them out and lined them up and took a picture, and so I'll put that up right here. And as you can see, in the top left is the game Clue Quest. This just reaffirms everything that I knew from the start, that I'm not a crazy person, and I know that I played this game as a kid. Downside, the disc isn't in there. And even if it was, like, it was cracked, the plastic was cracked, all that remains is just the front cover sleeve of the game. And as you can see, there's not much to go off of that could help me identify where I could get another copy or who I could reach out to. There's no contact information on the back side. It's just the front artwork, which is faded and blurry, and I apologize for the quality. You're looking at a picture of a scan that my mom sent me. So I ended up pulling it into PixArt and using an AI enhancer to see if I could make out what that bottom right circle is. However, as I said, the quality is super diminished, so it's really hard to make out what it says, and I narrowed it down to these two options.
Enhance.
But as expected, nothing popped up. I'm sure that even if there was like a game studio that I could find that was operating back when this game was released, and I still don't really have a too accurate time window on that. I think, you know, maybe 1997 to 2005. What I can remember was that it did look polished. It's not like some of the earlier games we saw where it was like 8-bit pixelated type of responses. It looked like a normal game, so maybe my time could be messed up and it's more like sub 2005, 2002 to 2005. It's just really difficult to tell.
Someone replied to my Discord post.
You are in luck. In 2010, I took a CD copy of the game and created an emulator version for the iPhone 4. These days, you could probably get it to run on UTM-SE with some effort. If you send over your email, I can get you the ROM. P.S. Don't forget to check out the Hedge Maze.
He said that to play the game, I would need an emulator that would work on my iPhone, so I'd be able to play it as if it was on my PC. And so it's time to play the game. It booted up just fine, and it just started asking questions: if I'm a boy or a girl, how old am I, and obviously I noticed that the game was clearly designed for kids. and even like asking me what my favorite candy flavor was before I was ready to start. The game was simple enough. I'd even say a little bit boring, obviously for me these days. But I still looked around, checked out the rose gardens, tended to the herbs, and just did some general exploring. And then I remembered the little PS at the bottom of the Reddit message that informed me to go check out the maze hedge. Now, I had already been there and I didn't see anything. It was just either go in the maze or go back to the main garden entrance. But when I went back, there was a new option. You decide not to risk getting lost inside and instead walk along the outside of the hedge. As you go, you find a small, hidden gate that leads to an area of the garden you haven't seen before, a section overgrown and wild. Exploring past the gate takes us here. You've been walking through the forest for hours trying to find your way back to the main trail when you stumble upon a clearing. In the center stands an old cabin. I decide to knock. As you knock, the door opens on its own. No one answers, but you hear a voice whispering from deeper inside the cabin. The voice sounds oddly familiar, almost like your own. The door creaks open. Inside, the air feels heavy and thick. A single chair sits in the center of the room, facing a flickering television. The screen suddenly turns on, showing footage of you walking into the cabin moments ago. You feel an icy hand touch your shoulder, but when you turn around, no one is there. I knew that I would enter the cabin, but I wanted to see what other options would lead to, so if you end up watching the TV, it says this. Entering the cabin, you notice a tall, dusty mirror in the corner. There is something unsettling about its reflection. It doesn't seem to match the room behind you perfectly. I think I'm going to cover the mirror. I don't want to mess with it. Without a sheet to cover the mirror, you turn it around so that it is facing the wall. Okay, fair enough. You proceed into the cabin and find the last unexplored room, but the door is locked. No, I'm not gonna partake in that, so we are just going to leave the cabin. Just out of curiosity though, what would happen if I tried to force it? Let's see. Are you sure? Okay, no, that's clearly a warning. Let's just leave. You find yourself lost in a dense, shadowy forest. The towering trees seem to press in from all sides, their twisted branches clawing at the sky. A faint fog rolls in, making it hard to see the path ahead. Strange whispers echo through the trees, though there's no one around. I know this is the wrong thing to do, but I'm gonna call out to the voices just to see. You call into the mist, asking if anyone is there. The voices stop for a moment, leaving an oppressive silence in their wake. Then one voice speaks, your own, calling you deeper into the woods. The fog thickens and you feel an unnatural pull beckoning you forward. That sounds like a skinwalker. You find yourself lost in a dense, shadowy forest. The towering trees seem to press in from all sides, their twisted branches clawing at the sky. A faint fog rolls in, making it hard to see the path ahead. Strange whispers echo through the trees, though there's no one around. You decide to stick to the narrow dirt trail, but the deeper you go, the more twisted and unnatural the trees become. After a while, you see something hanging from one of the branches. You can't make out what it is, but it is gross and appears to be dripping. You come across an abandoned campsite. The tent is torn and the campfire has long since gone cold. There are no signs of life, but the area feels wrong. Let's investigate. You look around the campsite, noticing strange claw marks on the trees nearby. As you inspect them closer, you realize they are not from any animal you know. Suddenly, you feel something watching you from the forest's edge. Think we still have time to search? I hope so. You pull back the flaps of the tent. Inside, you find a journal lying open. Chills run down your spine as you hear footsteps approaching from behind. When you turn around, no one is there. I'd like to pause real quick and just discuss how this very obviously is no longer a children's game. So far, it's been just voices that we don't know what's making them, that kind of sounds like our own, the feelings of being watched, footsteps creeping up behind us, whatever is hanging and dripping from this campsite that's abandoned with claw marks all over it. Like, this doesn't feel like this was designed for kids. This feels like there's a sense of danger for the player that we're playing in this story. So it's like I just don't know. I kind of want to choose some of these options and see if the game pushes it to like where it's obvious that this isn't appropriate. But I didn't have to go too far, because leaving the camp, trying to get as far away from it as possible, we start to hear something walking alongside you, just out of view. As you begin to run, it matches your pace, never letting you outrun it. The faster you run, the closer it gets, until you feel a cold hand brush against your arm. So now it's actively touching us. I still want to run. I push myself faster, running through the underbrush, hearing its footsteps right behind you, but you are beginning to pull away. As your muscles burn with intensity, you reach a riverbank in a clearing surrounded by trees. The trees seem to have kept the fog at bay. This gives us 4 options, 2 to hide and 2 to run. Clearly whatever this is faster than me or just as fast, so I'm gonna hide. You crawl under the tangled roots of an old fallen tree. The roots create a small, dark space, barely enough to hide you. The steps get closer, then stop directly above you. You hear it moving around, sniffing the ground, and muttering in a voice that sounds like your own. Oh no, 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 no. Yeah, you gotta risk it for the biscuit, so let's sneak out and keep going. You wriggle under the dense undergrowth, the sharp thorns scratching at your skin. The footsteps grow louder, followed by a low growl. A long, white arm reaches down, a hand unfurling lengthy, clawed fingers. The hand grabs you by the shirt and pulls you from the roots. Your blood wets the earth and the trees rejoice. What the fuck? Going back to select the right choice, I stay quiet and try to stay out of sight as it searches. From this position, you can see the creature moving nearby, something vaguely human with dark eyes and limbs that move unnaturally. As it sniffs the air, it trails off looking for you in the wrong direction. And then 3 sets of numbers. But that's it. That's the end of the game. You can't select any of those, and that's it. That's all. And some of you might have figured out, as I did, that those numbers are coordinates. And when I looked them up, this is where they go. And I was pretty shocked to see that the top one is not too far from where I'm at now. But surely I wouldn't be crazy enough to go investigate these weird coordinates in this weird 90s childhood game that may or may not be related to skinwalkers.
Hey everyone, Mike Glasgow here, conducting the investigation into what I believe is a skinwalker in Texas. Out here on the land that the coordinates pointed to, I'm kind of doing like a 3-mile radius, I would say is fair, of the surroundings. So just going to be documenting everything and trying to find this thing. We've got the last of the maintained grass road, and off to the left and right, it's just untamed land. It's beautiful out here though.
What the fuck is that? What the fuck? No, 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 don't. Dude, we need to go. We need to go. Let's go. Let's go. I'm ready. Hello and welcome back. I have returned from the trip and let's talk about everything that's gone on. So this originally started as me wanting to track down an old PC game that I played as a kid in the early days of computer gaming. We found a copy thanks to a kind person on Reddit that provided us the ROM to play on my iPhone. The game was pretty standard, just as I remembered it as a kid, with the exception of the hedge maze. If you revisited the hedge maze later in the game, a new choice would appear, allowing you to go around it. Now, I don't know how I never discovered this as a kid, but regardless, that path is there, and going down that path takes you kind of outside of the boundary of the standard game into like a very scary situation that ended in a real life sort of experience, in that if you complete the alternative hedge maze version of the game and survive the monster, you're provided with a set of 3 coordinates. I can't speak for the other 2, but I went to the first one and saw something pretty creepy and we got out of there. I don't know what the connection is between these 2, and that's why I think it's time to address the loose ends. The first one is, okay, we noticed the phrase AL or OW in the beginning of the game and at the end of the game when the coordinates are there. Now, I don't know if it's AL initials or if it's AL a name, maybe someone who developed the game, but again, we can't find out because the company no longer exists that made this game. So that's kind of dead end number 1. The second loose end being the gentleman from Reddit. Surely he may know, he pointed me to the hedge maze in the first place. Unfortunately, his account's no longer there. It doesn't exist, deleted. So where does that leave us? We've got an old 90s, potentially PC game with ties over 20 years later to a real world location and something pretty spooky. The point of Wildboy Investigates is to find these things out, but when I saw that thing standing in the tree line, Wildboy, all desire to investigate left my system. That's this episode. If you are located near any of the other 2 coordinate locations and want to take a look, please don't do that. But if you do, let me know what you find. And that's this episode. See you in the next one.